We are now recording. Okay, Mom, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, Ransom. Happy to be here.
You please state your name, your occupation, and how many years you have been working at this job.
Oh my gosh, this job or an education altogether?
This job specifically.
Okay, so my name is Heather Stidham, and I am a superintendent at McDade ISD, and this is my fourth year as superintendent of McDade.
Rad. All right. And you are also a mother of four, correct?
Yes, that
All
is
right.
correct.
All in college.
Every last one of them. At least that's what my paycheck tells me.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine that's fun. Okay. All right. So, Um, I am working on um,
Okay.
an essay that is discussing the current flaws that I believe to exist in um, not the education system, but in the way that a lot of um, parents choose to teach morality to their children in the current day and age. And so I wanted to ask you some questions to see if you could shed some light on certain aspects of this that I, as a 19-year-old child, um, might not actually have experienced.
Okay.
So I have a short list of questions here that I would greatly appreciate your assistance in answering.
Okay.
Okay. So, um, as a superintendent, how would you describe the impact on social development amongst children in today's day and age? Hold.
Like
Let
the
me rephrase that.
responsibility of the school that they expect the school to take over,
Uh,
or
Rather, the impact that um, internet access at an early age has had on children in school.
yeah, and I think that it varies based on ability, right? I think there's good things and bad things about it. Um, I think the most hindering things are social media. Um, Although there can be good things about it, there is so much anonymity or no immediate feedback to gauge where you are with someone or your thoughts, particularly when you're sharing an opposing viewpoint, right? And I think social media for kids takes away that accountability that helped people grow and mature emotionally through conflict or things that would give them pause because they've been taught better, right? Because when you're on a keyboard and you're on your computer and you just type it and put it in, you're not really accountable for what you're saying. Even if somebody gets on there and says something negative back, there's still no personal accountability. Um, Not like there is when you are amongst a group of people and you're sharing ideas. I think people have much more um, pause and thought when they're in conversation in human with one another, as opposed to being in conversation in a text message. There are a lot of things that are said and shared um, through a phone, and a lot of assumptions that are made. People seem to be a little more trusting and are willing to share things that they may not ought not be sharing um, with people via a text message or through social media, and I think that didn't happen when we didn't have cell phones and things like that. Right? I'm not saying that those acts didn't happen, um, but it certainly didn't happen to the extent that it does now. And I think that most people also try to communicate and post and put out there what they think is the best version of themselves or what other people will like, and rather than what their truth is and who they are, because everybody has an idea of who they want to be or who they think they are, whether that's how they truly represent themselves or not.
Right.
And, with the exposure to all of their other friends too, and in different social classes and in different settings, everybody comes away with social media, I think a lot of times feeling like they have to be a certain way. And that I think that's been one of the things that's been the scariest most about kids, as young as fifth and sixth grade, contemplating suicide or even attempting it, right? Because they get caught up in their thoughts and their heads about how they're supposed to be or what's supposed to be going on or what people are thinking about them because of things that they have posted, because a lot of kids do not have parents in their life who track their activity and see what they're doing. And at the end of the day, it's almost readily available to any kid. So even if that parent does take that device or whatever away from them, they have 2 to 10 friends who are still going to be able to help them get access to it, right?
Right.
And so I think for the mental health of kids growing up in the world, I don't think that um, social media is a positive thing.
Okay. All right. You you mentioned that there was a lack of perhaps accountability or a lack of
Yes.
supervision from parents when it comes to um kids being on the internet or having such access to the internet from a great many different sources, including friend groups. Um, I wonder how you, as a parent, decided to handle that while you were raising me and my siblings.
Well, I don't know if it was the right choice, right? Um, I felt like, hmm, I feel like kids have to make mistakes to learn. I think that we did not have every text message looked at. We weren't checking to see your apps all the time, but we would randomly get on there and look, right? Because I mean, random's better than everybody knowing you're going to look at it at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, right? Or if you're going to do it at dinner, or if you're doing it at all. Um, so the way we chose to monitor and not monitor, honestly, um, I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but kids are so under the microscope because of what they're on. Um, I don't think that we probably managed it as well as we should have, but we trusted you guys to be responsible with the access that you had, because you showed us in all other ways that y'all were pretty reliable, pretty responsible kids. Were you kids? Yes. Did you not tell the truth sometimes? Yeah. Do kids do that? Uh huh.
Sometimes.
Right. But you can't, that's just part of being a kid, right?
Right.
But there were never times at which um, I think our experiences with you guys that we felt like you ever put yourself in dangerous situations when, we knew your friends, we knew the people you were with, whether we liked them or not, we knew who they were. We knew who their parents were or how to get a hold of them, even if we weren't friends with them, right?
Right.
And with y'all, it was a little different with you boys because, we were at a tiny school. You can't hide, and people share stuff with you all the time. So sometimes your kids think they're getting away with stuff, but other parents are showing you stuff that they're posting because you do have those other parents who watch every single thing that they do. So, what we chose to do is we chose not to respond to every single thing. Um, if there was something that felt like it was not okay, or that you might be in trouble with, or we might be concerned about how you're taking something, then we would have approached that in a way other than saying, "Oh, saw this on your phone, right?" Um, or this, we saw that you post this on social media, on your Instagram. Um, but I think we also tried to lead by example as parents when we didn't have a lot of that on our phones, right? We didn't have Snapchat. We didn't have, well, I still don't have Instagram. I have Facebook. That's about it, right? But I think that we talked openly to you all about how we felt about social media and why we felt that way and the concerns about it more so than what y'all were doing on it, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't control what people are going to do, but you can help expose your own kids to thoughts and ideas that might give them pause as to what they're doing. And I feel like that's kind of how we approached handling y'all's business.
Okay. Um, well, we definitely had, I mean, a wildly different experience growing up than you and Dad did. Growing up in the 70s and 80s and having been working in the education sector since 1995, have you noticed any particular distinct change in the way that parents have been held accountable for the way that they hold their children accountable, especially in social and
I have
academic
not
settings?
seen the positive side of that. I think that parents nowadays are more likely to back their kids than hold them accountable, or make an excuse for their kids than hold them accountable. I see a whole lot more of that. And I think that's for several different reasons, right? When I grew up in the world your dad and I grew up in, we had a parent who was at home after school and in the evening and people around. Um, a large part of people now have to work a single job or double jobs, and they're not as easily accessible when kids aren't in school. Um, no matter what kind of background that you grew up in, whether you were poor or you had money, there was a parent available all the time, and someone there. And nowadays it's very different. There's a lot of, I guess, some people like to call them broken homes and divided homes or divorced homes. And, however you approach that is, I think, how the relationship is between the two parents is trying to manage it. But I think that there are many more families and kids now that come from divorced parents who, that is also a way of their communication and them staying in touch and trying to keep up with one another. And but as far as accountability in the education system, kids have their phones on them all the time, and kids are keen, and sometimes they're taking pictures and they're recording things that are actually happening, right? And sometimes they are taking pictures and they're recording things that don't always tell the whole story. And a lot of parents will default to the kid's story and not approach the situation when they come to it as a question, or let me share this with you. This is what I found, or this is what I heard. Um, so the community where when I grew up, parents and the school a large time were on the same page, right? I knew if I was going to get in trouble at school, I was going to get in trouble at home. And there was, you didn't want to be in trouble at home. And there was a lot of that. And now I can't say I can't say that's the same thing, right? I mean, I had a extremely serious situation last week with a handgun at a school. And the parent made an excuse for the kid. And then the parent withdrew the kid because I was going to give the kid a consequence, right? And I'm like, that's the craziest thing, right? That's the scariest thing that could be happening at schools right now. And for a parent to be upset that their kid's going to have a consequence because they had one at school just kind of blows my mind. But that's how different it was. Of course, when I was school, you still carried them in your back window and it was okay. But it is much different world in so many forms and fashions now that it just doesn't, the education world and the parenting world to a large degree do not work cooperatively for what's best for kids.
Okay. All right. Um, well, this paper that I am writing has to do a lot with not just the not just the way that morality and empathy is taught within or not within, but rather to children, but the importance of it. In discussions that I've had with your staff, uh, many of them have remarked at not only your professionalism, but just as well noted your kindness within that. How important to you is empathy as a part of your job, and where do you see it as most beneficial?
Well, I think if you're in education on any platform, if you do not have the ability to be empathetic or sympathetic, I think that's the basis for being able to connect with people and to build relationships. And it doesn't matter if it's a pre-K kiddo or a senior in high school, right? If you do not know how to build a relationship with a student, they don't hear what you have to say. And kids are very, very keen on whether you're sincere and you mean that, or whether you're just blowing smoke, or whether you're just there to collect a paycheck, right? Kids know that. They watch absolutely everything that you do, and they believe more in what you do than what you say. And it's that is everything. Being able to pause and to actually listen to people, to hear what are they really saying, and try to figure out, well, why are they saying that? That's part of putting all the pieces together. Um, rather than listening to respond so that you can defend yourself or give a reason why you have to teach this, because that's not what it's about. At the end of the day, it's about connecting as humans so that we have some kind of common platform to trust that, I'm not just blowing smoke. There are things that are important. And are you going to need geometry every day? Heck no. But are you going to need to know how to slow down, pay attention to the details, think about what somebody who's really asking you to do and spend more than 2 minutes figuring it out? Absolutely. That's going to be the rest of your life, right? So it may not be geometry, but all the processes that you have to do for something that's difficult transfers to every aspect of your life as a grown up, and it pours over into your work ethic. If everything's fast and easy, well, I mean, let's just be honest, right? You're not getting very far in life with fast and easy, because that's not how life works. And life is more difficult at times, um, than it is joyful, I think. There's more things that you have to figure out, and you make more mistakes, but that's how we all learn. And if you can learn to do that with people you trust and enjoy, then it doesn't seem difficult and it doesn't seem hard. It's just what you do. And I think I think it's essential to be able to be empathetic, to understand, where's this conversation coming from? Where is it going? What do I need to do at the end of this to maintain a part of it, right? If that's your goal.
Okay, I quite like that answer. Um, I think that may have potentially covered my bases. Okay. I would like to ask, and this may not be used in the official transcript of this interview, but I do think that it would be valuable in helping me understand the point of view of teachers and anybody else that works in the education sector on the way that parents are choosing to handle, especially consequences with their children and the impact that that has um, in their professional and personal lives. Um, is there a change that you would like to see amongst the way that the average person chooses to parent in the current day?
Hmm, that's kind of a loaded question.
Yes.
Because that's a trick question, right? Because there's not one right way to be a parent. And not everybody gets the same kids. Not everybody has the same access to money or support or community, right? So there's not a level playing field ever. And even within the same, like, say, our family, right? If you take ours, for example, we have a playing field between the six of us, and we're all in the same area, but you needed different things than Delaney needed, than Emmett needed, than Jet needed, because you're all different people. So what you required was us to be consistent with addressing what was needed and paying enough attention to know when things are up, and knowing when to back off and letting you make a mistake, so that you could figure out before you left the house that when you make mistakes, it's not the end of the world, that life keeps on going. Good things can happen after that. And you can change that if you choose to, right? I think that is the biggest thing that probably I would like to change about parents, is not that, don't expect your kid to be a perfect kid. Don't expect them to always do the right things, because what's going to happen when they do the wrong thing? And it and kids genuinely struggle with that, right? They they struggle with telling you they screwed up. They struggle with telling you they did the wrong thing. And I would have much rather, and I know that your dad's in the same boat because we've had many conversations about this. We would rather you guys fall on your face and do completely the wrong thing while you were under our roof so we can love you through the other side so that you knew when you left that you always had a safe place to come to and there wasn't anything that you would do in your life that you couldn't move past if you made a mistake, right? Because most of our most valuable things in life come from our screw ups, not our successes. I can remember more of the things that I did wrong than I can remember that I did right. And I think that that's for a lot of people. But I mean, I think a lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, if all the kids could read when they come to school, if they could do this." I mean, that shit's never going to happen, right? It's just not. Not everybody has the same resources, the same backgrounds, the same upbringing. But what everybody could do is be available for their kids, right? To pay attention and know who they are and not save them from everything. Because when you save them from everything, they don't know how to save themselves. And that is such an important life skill to have is to know how to save yourself. And it is the hardest thing to sit and watch your kid do, right? You don't want them to fail and you don't want them to struggle, but they need to. And they need to know that that's not the end of the world and that that's how they grow and that they've learned that, okay, well, shit, I did this 3 times. Maybe I should do something different next time, right? And you can have those conversations with them, but you continue to allow them to make the choice. And so I guess if there was one thing I would change about how parents are involved with their kids is to know who their kids are. And that requires talking to them, not talking at them, not telling them what to do, not making them be involved in absolutely all of your interests, but listen to what they're truly interested in doing, right? I mean, your dad and I are a good example. We grew up, athletics was everything to us, and that's what we loved and we did. But not one of y'all loved that in your lives. And you just didn't, right?
Oh yeah.
And did we make you do it? Of course we did. There's a lot of good discipline. There's a lot of good energy that's involved in doing that. But we made you do it through junior high. When you got in high school, we let you guys choose what path that was going to be for y'all. And we supported that the best ways we knew how, even if it was something different than what we love to do, right? Because you're not us. You are your own person and you've got to figure out how your person is going to work in the world. And we can't figure that out for you. So, being available and allowing your kid to be who they are and just help them navigate, but not doing it for them, letting them fail, not picking them back up, but help them learn how to pick themselves back up because you don't want that first experience to happen away from your home where they have none of those skills. That's scary to me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Do I have your permission to use this essay and or sorry, this interview and your words to assist me in the writing of my essay.
Yeah, you have my permission. If it causes you to fail, I'm so sorry.
That's just what happens when you take a chance.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Mom. Thanks for being an awesome mom.
And
And
thank you for being an awesome kid.
for what it's
For real.
worth, I think you and Dad pretty much nailed it.
Oh, well, okay. I'm not going to ask him for his answers, swear.
All right. I love you, Mom, and I will see you on Thursday most likely.
Okay. I love you too.
All right.
We'll
Bye
see you
bye.
soon. All right. Bye.